Right then, Burnley 0, Bournemouth 0. I mean, a pretty dour 90 minutes from both teams, really. Not a great deal happened from either side. I felt, both teams could probably still be there at 10 o'clock tonight and still not have scored. I don't know how Bournemouth are having such a good season if that's what they're serving up a lot of the time, because Bournemouth were genuinely really, really, really poor today. We were nowhere near their level. I think it were pretty even for most of the game. But looking at our season and where we're at now, obviously 8 games left. Points are they're just irrelevant at this point, aren't they? Really, to salvage anything from this season, you need to be getting wins. And I think the main gripe from me at the end of that game is we're actually slowing the game down at 0-0. There's 10 minutes left and we're slowing the game down. We're actually trying to control the game, which in a defensive way, which I find mind-boggling when we have to chase a win. You've got Dubravka taking his time over corners, throw-ins are taking a long time, just passing a lot of sideways and not really looking like they want to go forward. And to be doing that when we desperately need wins, it ain't going to get you any plaudits off anybody, really. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get any sort of praise or any positives really out of the game if that's how you're going to approach it. You can't just sit and pretend to get sit and dig in for 0-0 and hope you might nick one, because with our quality, it's just not going to happen. And again, it's the whole peaks and troughs thing that comes into play again of types of performances. There's no consistency between the performances. You give a performance like you do against the first half at Brentford into the second half, then you follow it up at Everton, and then you sort of follow it up with that it just all felt a bit flat and toothless, which again probably the title of our DVD review at end of season, isn't it, really? Flat and toothless. That's pretty much everything you need to know about Burnley Football Club in 25, 26. So I'm really, really clutching at straws to sort of drag this video out longer than 5 minutes, let alone 10 like I usually try and do. But the two sort of main sticking points for me is Foster and Broja. They're absolute sitters. Like, Foster gets given one in the first half, and when it sits to him, I sort of sat back in my chair and was like, anyone but him, and he proved it right. He just could not. He just looked like a man that's looked complete, like he just has no trust in his own ability. He would rather have done anything other than shoot at that point. He tried to fart about with it too much, and then the second chance that we get, near the end of the game, you look like you're going to win it. If that falls to Fleming, or obviously he's not on the pitch at that point, or Anthony, you sort of expecting him to hit the target, but Broja gets on the end of a decent breakaway, and I don't even know what he did. He just takes the worst first touch he possibly could, and then takes him away from goal, and then just craps his pants, and just baffling. And then leading on to that, after the final whistle, there was definitely, I don't know how many people saw it, but I definitely saw it, there was definitely a little bit of a scuffle between Fleming and Broja, where Fleming's gone straight to Broja, had a bit of a ding-dong back and forward, saying, basically I think Fleming's saying he should be hitting the target there. They've had a bit of a to-do, and then Fleming's pushed him away, and then that's it. Broja gets sort of walked off and whatever. So there's obviously a sense of frustration from our own players that Broja's not really got, the ability to hit the back of the net when he needs to. And then I think something that needs to be said is, you've got best part of 80 million quid sat up bench today, which, again, he is what I said. I said in a video on my channel that, it's a failure. The transfers are a failure this season. There's not been any transfer that's come in and ripped up any trees, and the fact that we're pretty much starting with all our summer business sat on the bench is, in March is not good, really. It was nice to see Hartman back in the team. He didn't really do much, didn't really add anything different that we've already seen over the past few months. Hopefully Steve's not a serious injury, and we can sort of, get him back in the team. But I can't. I'm trying to be enthusiastic in this video. I really am, and it's a dull watch, and I appreciate, that people do try. Joe wants to put these up on TurfCast, but there's not really a lot to talk about in that game. I'll be honest with you. A really dour, flat, drab day at the office, really, at Turf Moor, and you know, if it wasn't curtains already, it is now. It's done. We just have to sort of see out the season and that's it. You know, there is no coming back from this position now. We're relegated, we're down, and we just have to keep turning up and saving face a little bit. And you know, if they're the performances we're going to throw in till now to the end of the season, then we're not probably going to see a lot of goals. We're probably not going to see a lot of excitement, but. Yeah, look, it's just one of them. I really naffed it. I'll end the video on a positive. We'll do that here. I think you've got to give credit to Hannibal and to Anthony today. I thought Anthony really, you know, tried today. He was trying to get on the end of things. His first touch felt like it were back again. Hannibal was man of the match for me. He was sublime today. Like he was the best as he could have been in that team. You know, he was geeing up the crowd. He was making tackles. He was trying to get on everything. He was pressing stuff down. He really captures what we believe Burnley should be about. You know, Burnley hasn't been the Burnley that we know about this season, but to see Hannibal give that performance, I think is a real positive out of a really dour game. I think we have to really, you know, celebrate them little wins because we haven't really had many this season. So for me, Hannibal's man of the match by a country mile, and yeah, I mean, that's about as much as I can say, really. I did find the team select. I thought the not team select, but I thought seeing Ugachukwu on the bench for as long as he were felt a bit strange. I felt like we could have made that change a bit sooner, which again is another indictment on Scott Parker. Again, he doesn't make changes fast and when he needs to. I felt like Laurent had a good game. He did have a good game, but I felt like we could have. In that the middle of that second half where we started to step on Bournemouth a little bit, we could have used with that bit of bite in midfield, and I thought Leslie could have done that. But yeah, look, another day, another game done as a Burnley fan. Let's just count the days down. Let's just get this season over with, and let's just get to the summer. And yeah, that's all really. Cheers for watching. See you in the next one. Up the Clarets.